I was a hot mess as a teenager and I fear I ruined my whole life. In 20F, my entire teenage years were a hot mess. I was in and out of psychiatric facilities for suicide attempts. From 13 to 19 when I wasn't in a facility I was out doing drugs, sleeping with anyone, partying, sneaking out, getting arrested etc. I was in an abusive relationship with a boy who would hit me and belittle me any chance he got. He ruined my self-esteem. I also was sexually traumatized by him and his friend. When I finally exited the relationship, my self-esteem was so horrid that I became a massive whore and slept with over 25 guys before I even turned 18. My relationship with my parents was absolutely fucked. We fought every day. I said horrible things, they said horrible things back. I think the worst thing I ever said to my mom was that I wished her dead because I hated her so much for bringing me into this world. On more than one occasion I got into physical altercations with my parents. I was bullied relentlessly for literally everything I did. I hated going to school, I hated myself, I hated everything. I smoked pot like Snoop Dogg, vaped, popped pills, took psychedelics, tried coke, drank myself to death every weekend. I got the police called on me 3 times at school for doing drugs in the bathroom. They finally kicked me out and sent me to an alternative program. Needless to say, I barely graduated. I didn't learn much at alternative school as most of the classroom time was devoted to addressing behavioral problems. I didn't even bother applying to college after high school. Recently, I got sober, repaired my relationship with my family and started college. While I've found success in many areas of my life, I can't help but be so depressed thinking about how my life could have gone had I not been so fucked up. I feel completely devalued as a person. I hate everything about my past self, but I also feel so bad for her. I have no idea what to say when someone has a baby. So, I'm childless by choice, going on 40. A lot of my cousins are younger and several of them are pregnant or about to have kiddos and 2 just recently had kids. Cue the big family text announcements and pictures and everybody freaks out and squeals in response and I just sit here thinking oh boy, I can't relate to this at all. And let me say, I actually love kids. I really do and I have 4 nieces who are awesome and I love spending time with. But they are all now over 8 years old. Also, some of the cousins' kids have gotten older and they are all awesome, seriously, not a brat among them. But babies? I just can't. When we are visiting and someone asks do you want to hold the baby? After a bunch of people pass the little one around, I freeze. Can I ever just say no thanks, holler back when they're at least 5? Lol I never do of course, I always oblige and hold the lil nugget for a few and pretty quickly say something like okay, little one, now Auntie Sue wants to see you. And pass him off. It just makes me feel like a total jerk. I have zero maternal instinct, one of the many reasons I don't have kids, and when the announcement pics come I just think I gotta pretend to be excited, don't I? I will also note, I have never confessed this out loud to any parent that I have ever known. And I never would. So, just a confession cause I feel like the antithesis of how a woman is supposed to feel when babies are around. Watched a man die in the emergency room lobby today. I watched a man seize and die on the emergency room floor today. I had already been there for 4 hours. IDK how long he had been waiting there. And I kind of just watched him slowly nodding off out of the corner of my eye until someone noticed he was unresponsive. Guy was waiting there with no shirt and no shoes. Took like 12 people to get him onto a bed, with one nurse having to ride on his chest performing continuous CPR while they wheeled him back there. I fucking hate it here. There were still 60 plus people in that waiting room waiting for care. There's absolutely no reason this shit has to happen. Every day that passes with things the way they are feels more and more like a death sentence. I'm so angry with the way things are lately but I know I have little chance of crawling my way out of it. Everything just seems hopeless. I'm cutting my sister off after she tried to add my husband on Instagram. I, 28F, have finally made the decision to cut my, 32F, sister out of my life because she tried to follow my husband on Instagram. For some context, my sister and I never had a great relationship. I idolized her growing up, and at times she was nice and sisterly to me, but we have different dads and she made it clear at a young age that she wished it was just her, our mom and her dad. She blames me for their divorce. My sister was definitely my biggest bully growing up. She'd beat me up, although I think most sisters did this, and she would always make fun of me for my looks and personality. She would also intentionally get me in trouble by pretending I attacked her, or she'd throw herself into a wall and start crying for her mom saying I pushed her. There were a lot of other things she would do but that's a story for another time. Anyway, when we became adults she went off the rails. Dropped out of college twice, lost a lot of her friends, started partying and doing drugs, and just became a bit of a mess. I tried to support her as much as I could, but she never wanted my help. She would try to flirt with my husband by bending over in short dresses without any underwear and attempting to sit on his lap. This all made him uncomfortable but I kind of let it slide considering her mental state. I regret that as I should have taken my husband's feelings into account. He hated her, and still does, and whenever we have family events he tries to distance himself from her. To give a brief history of the past 10 years, because I could go on forever about the things she's done, she teased me relentlessly and told me I was boring after I was diagnosed with multiple heart conditions. She admitted in a drunken state that she intentionally sabotages social situations so that I feel outlasted. She threw a beer bottle at my head, and when I made her leave the room so I could clean up the mess, she told everyone I was mean to her and made her sleep on the couch. Then when I told them what really happened, she said I was drama. She got drunk at my bachelorette party and tried to make it all about her. And then after my bridal shower the month before my wedding, she told her whole family that my dad, who I was eagerly looking forward to walking me down the aisle, sad both of us as kids. This is not true, but of course she waited for me to leave before telling anyone so I couldn't tell everyone the truth. I've continued to keep her in my life because I love her and don't want family events to be awkward, but recently out of nowhere she deleted me off of Instagram and Snapchat. I thought it was strange, but then she friend requested my husband and I'm honestly just over it. This was my last straw. I think I'm just done with her. I know it's such a small thing to cut someone off over, but I just don't have any more F's to give. Do guys really just not get it? I was out with my friend Mark a little while ago and we had gone to a very popular restaurant downtown, so we had to park 3 blocks away from the restaurant in a parking garage. We had each drove our own cars and I had parked on the 3rd floor and he parked on the 5th. It was past 11 when we left the restaurant, so other than a few bars, everything was closed down, so we were pretty much alone as we reached the garage. Once we got into the elevator, we could hear a bunch of guys who had obviously been drinking, shouting, and laughing on one of the floors. We stopped on the floor where I had parked and saw the group of guys between the elevator and my car. They looked towards us and one of them said something like, "I bet she's not as stuck up as those girls at the bar." It made me really nervous and I asked my friend if he would walk me to my car. He said he didn't want to wait for the elevator again, so I asked if he would watch me walk to my car at least. He sighed in annoyance and rolled his eyes and finally agreed. I pulled out my keys and arranged them so there was a key between each of my fingers and clenched my fist. This earned another sigh from my friend. I got out of the elevator and half walked, half ran to my car, hugging the outer wall to put as much distance between me and the group of guys. I waited until I was almost at my car before unlocking it, hopped in and got out of there as quick as I could. A few days later we were hanging out at my house, having a game night with a few other friends, and Mark decided to share the story of our last night out and how ridiculous I had acted. One of the other guys laughed and said, "We're not all looking to jump a girl in a parking garage." One of my girlfriends spoke up and said, "We have no real way of knowing if someone is dangerous or not, that most girls have had a bad experience with someone that they never would have thought that they were the type to do that, friends, family, parents, friends, co-workers, etc." The conversation quickly moved on to another topic, but I was sitting there thinking of a few of the times that guys in my life just didn't seem to get that we have rules that we follow. My ex-husband would get so frustrated when I would ask him to lock the door if he was leaving if I was going to be the only one home. My brother trying to help me look for apartments on a budget and not understanding that I will not take a garden or first-level apartment as a single girl. A Tinder date not understanding why I check in with a nearby friend the first few times going out with them. My friend who was my roommate for a couple of years not understanding why I look out the peephole and put the chain on before opening the door if I do not know the person knocking. There are many other examples, but thinking about all this just makes me wonder, do guys really not get it?